Imagine stepping out of, like a sensory deprivation tank where you've spent the formative years of your existence.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a wild visual.
Right, because in that tank, the water is perfectly heated, the nutrients are fed to you automatically, and your only real job is to just develop a nervous system.
You're just surviving,
Yeah,
adapting to the environment.
exactly. You're maybe building the very foundational architecture of an ego. But then the hatch opens.
The real world hits you.
Yeah, you are pulled out, handed a sword, a ledger, and a crown, and shoved onto a battlefield.
And everyone else on that battlefield is either trying to build an empire, steal your empire, or, sell you something you don't need.
Totally. The rules of the tank just do not apply anymore. Now you have to actually do something with the biology you've developed.
It's the transition from the primordial waters of the unconscious mind right into the blistering high-stakes theater of the material plane.
Which is the ultimate shock to the spiritual system.
It really is. I mean, we spend so much time analyzing the foundational traumas of our beginnings, but the architecture of how we actually construct our worldly dominance, how we take up space, that's an entirely different esoteric engine.
Well, welcome back to the deep dive. We are picking up right where we left you, standing on the precipice of that exact battlefield.
Yeah, it's great to be back into this material.
So, in part one of this exploration into the 27 nakshatras, we navigated the first 9 lunar mansions, from Ashvini down into the deep, twisting waters of Ashlisha.
Which really mapped out those raw survival instincts.
Exactly. But today, the training wheels come completely off. We are plunging into the second cycle of 9 nakshatras.
The celestial map of adulthood.
Yes. This is the blueprint for how we forge an identity, accumulate wealth, secure a lineage, and inevitably face the terrifying void of a midlife existential crisis.
And if we navigate the wreckage of that crisis successfully, how we assume the mantle of the elder.
So what's the overarching frequency of this second cycle?
It's heavy, complex involvement in worldly activities.
Right. Like if the first 9 were about the sheer biological miracle of arriving on Earth, these next 9 are about what happens when you start manipulating the earthly plane to your own advantage.
You're actively shaping reality now.
Exactly. We are looking at a sequence that begins with absolute royal entitlement and ends with the paranoid, heavy crown of societal authority.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our sources outline a remarkably specific timeline for this genesis of the adult ego.
They really do. The precision is fascinating.
The transition out of the watery depths of Ashleisha hurls us directly into the roaring fire of Magha, which is the 10th nakshatra.
And the texts pinpoint this energetic activation to around the age of 21.
21. So we are no longer reacting to the environment. We are imposing our will upon it.
Right. Magha actually translates to mighty, beneficent, or magnificent.
And if you look up at the constellation anchored by that blazing reddish star, Regulus, I mean, the ancient seers literally saw a royal throne room. Or a palanquin, which is a huge distinction. It's the sheer manifestation of kingly energy. But the palanquin's symbolism is critical here.
Why is that? What makes a palanquin different from just a standard throne?
Because it isn't just a generic symbol for power, it dictates the mechanism of that power. A palanquin is a seat of authority that is carried by others.
Oh, wow. So you can't be on it alone.
Exactly. Magha strives for a massive sense of achievement and glory, but its authority is entirely dependent on its roots.
And that ties into its planetary lord, right? The sources say that Dasha, or planetary period, for Magha is ruled by Ketu and lasts for 7 years.
Yes, the Ketu Dasha is a 7-year cycle, and Ketu is the south node of the moon. Plus, its presiding deities are the Pitris.
The ancient forefathers.
Right, and that Ketu influence is where the standard understanding of royal power gets incredibly complicated.
It really does, because Mars or the sun would give you a king who conquers through sheer force of will, or maybe radiant charisma.
But Ketu represents internalized karma. It is the headless body, the ancient past, the spiritual DNA we bring into this lifetime.
So Magha's throne isn't necessarily something you win in a bloody coup today. It's something you inherit from the bloodline.
Which perfectly explains why Magha is so utterly obsessed with lineage.
It demands you become consciously aware of your roots.
Yeah, because those roots are the only thing holding up the palanquin. Ketu grounds the fiery, forward-thrusting nature of this Leo-based nakshatra right into the ancient past.
But hold on, this is where I hit a wall in the source material, and I really need to push back on the inherent logic here.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Magha is the absolute pinnacle of royal authority, thrones, lineages, Regulus shining in the sky, why did the ancient seers classify its caste as Shudra?
Ah, yes, the servant caste.
Right. To an audience understanding the archetypes of kingship, classifying the ultimate king as a servant feels like a fundamental contradiction. Is this like a cosmic joke about the fragility of power?
It's not a joke at all. It's actually the most profound philosophical statement in the entire zodiacal wheel.
Really?
Yeah. The friction you're sensing is completely deliberate. The seers encoded a warning into Magha. They're saying a true sovereign is ultimately the supreme servant of the realm.
Wow. Okay, that shifts the perspective entirely.
Right. Magha is classified as an Ugra, or fierce Nakshatra. It possesses a burning pride and recognizes no limits when chasing its objectives.
But its spiritual octave is different.
Yes, the highest frequency of this star is Karma Yoga, fulfilling your worldly duty without becoming spiritually intoxicated by the ego of the throne.
So the throne is just a highly efficient tool for service.
Exactly. If you believe the throne is you, the Ketu influence will eventually sever your head from your body, figuratively speaking.
Precisely the mechanic at play. And look at the chart the sources provided to illustrate this Paramahamsa Yogananda.
Such a perfect example. He had both his moon and his ascendant placed in Magha.
Right. And he wielded massive, unparalleled spiritual authority. I mean, he was treated like royalty as he brought Kundalini Yoga to the West.
But his entire doctrine, his entire identity, was predicated on being a servant to his gurus.
Sri Yukaswar, Lahiri Mahasaya, Babaji, he never claimed to have invented the spiritual technology he was teaching.
No, he was merely the palanquin bearer for his ancestors. His royal status was a byproduct of his absolute servitude to the lineage.
And this intense focus on preserving the lineage manifests on the physical plane in a way that often surprises people. We have to look at Magha's sexual animal,
The rat.
which feels jarring. You have Regulus, thrones, spiritual gurus, and then a rat.
It does seem disconnected at first glance.
But if we extract the cultural disgust we have for rats and just look at their biological function, it makes structural sense.
They are hypersexual and produce massive amounts of progeny.
Right. If your entire cosmic duty is to ensure the survival of the royal bloodline, you don't want the sexual animal of like a solitary eagle. You need the biological imperative to multiply.
The sexuality associated with Magha isn't just about physical recreation. It is a deeply ingrained, almost anxious drive to cheat death by ensuring the DNA survives into the next generation.
We see the nuances of this anxiety when we track the energy through the nakshatra's padas, or quarters.
Because the energy doesn't sit still.
Exactly. The first pada of Magha falls in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So you have the ancestral weight of Ketu filtering through the aggressive, pioneering lens of Mars.
That is the young king on the battlefield right there. It's pure, unadulterated willpower.
The ambition here isn't just, I want to win. It's, I have to win to prove I am worthy of the ancestors.
But as the planet transits through the constellation, the friction changes. By the time we reach the fourth pada, which falls in Cancer, the fiery sword of Mars is completely dissolved.
Because Cancer is ruled by the moon.
Right. The aggressive outward expansion turns violently inward.
The text notes that this lunar quarter is heavily involved in ancestor worship, digging into the past, and esoteric rituals.
It's a brilliant paradox. Magha is an energy that desperately wants to sit high up on a visible throne, but in this pada, it spends all its time digging underground into the roots.
That inward turn is necessary, because once the identity is forged, the throne secured, and the lineage respected, the human ego hits a saturation point.
The king is exhausted, which creates the vacuum that pulls us into the next phase of the journey.
The vacation phase. The transition from the heavy bloodline-obsessed Magha into the glamorous, decadent realm of the Phalgunis.
Purva Phalguni and Uttara Phalguni.
If Magha is the brutal week of conquering the corporate ladder, Purva Phalguni is the extravagant weekend getaway, where you finally look around and realize you want someone to share the spoils with.
The search for the partner begins in earnest right here. Purva Phalguni, the 11th nakshatra, is the domain of relaxation, creative manifestation, and the deep, consuming desire for union.
And it's important to note how seamlessly it pairs with Magha, as they both share the rat as their sexual animal.
The drive for progeny is still there, but the flavor of the pursuit shifts dramatically because of the planetary rulers.
Right. The sources specify that Purva Phalguni is ruled by Venus, and its dasha runs for a massive 20 years.
A 20-year cycle of Venusian energy. But we are looking at a deeply combustible pitta or fiery dynamic.
Because even though Venus rules the dasha, the nakshatra sits in Leo, which is ruled by the sun.
Exactly. So you have that radiant, undeniable solar ego, but it's steeped in the energy of Venus.
How does a solar ego handle Venusian compromise? Those two forces, the demand to be the center of the universe versus the demand to harmonize with another, create a massive amount of heat.
And fire is the absolute essence of desire. That heat is exactly what propels the mating ritual.
Which we see play out in the padas. In the first pada of Purva Phalguni, which falls in Leo and is ruled by the sun, the Venusian influence is almost completely subjugated by solar pride.
The text describes this quarter as intensely ego-driven. It is the absolute radiation of I.
It's the young adults strutting their plumage, demanding to be adored rather than seeking a true partnership.
It's pure performative romance, but the cosmic mechanics force refinement over time.
Yeah, by the time we hit the third pada in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, the solar ego finally yields.
The energy shifts from adore me to let us appreciate beauty together.
This is where the capacity for genuine counseling, harmonious travel, and deep partnership is forged. You found the mate. You've enjoyed the spoils of your early victories.
And then the alarm clock rings.
The weekend ends.
Uttara Phalguni demands that you pay the toll for the security you've been enjoying.
Monday morning, the 12th nakshatra. And this one is ruled entirely by the sun, with a 6-year dasha period.
The shift from personal individuality to social individuality.
You are no longer just the king of your own private castle enjoying your 20-year Venusian weekend. You are now inextricably bound to the social contract.
Uttara Phalguni forces you to adopt a fixed role within the broader community. It is the nakshatra of patronage, of upholding societal structures.
And taking on family issues with a grim sense of duty rather than pleasure.
But the danger of Uttara Phalguni lies in its inherent authoritarianism.
Because when you are cosmically hardwired to uphold the rules of society, what happens when the society you are born into is inherently corrupt?
This is where the source material provided a chart that completely stopped me in my tracks.
I know exactly the one you mean. To illustrate Uttara Phalguni's influence over societal roles, they didn't use a politician or a philanthropist.
They used the chart of a man deeply entrenched in the mafia.
My immediate reaction was, wait, how does an energy dedicated to upholding society support an organization that parasitically destroys it?
It's a fair question.
Is the text implying that these celestial forces possess absolutely no moral compass?
That is exactly what it implies, and it's a crucial lesson in esoteric mechanics. The nakshatras do not deal in human morality. They deal in architectural energy.
Okay, break that down for us.
This individual had their ninth lord, the planet, dictating the father, the lineage, and the overarching belief system placed in Uttara Phalguni.
And the mafia is not chaos.
No, not at all. It is a highly rigid, fiercely authoritarian micro-society with brutal codes of conduct, fixed roles, and extreme loyalty to the family.
So Uttara Phalguni just provides the blueprint for loyalty to the structure.
Exactly. It doesn't care if the structure is the local city council or an organized crime syndicate. It just executes the code. Yeah.
The energy provides the scaffolding, the human environment dictates the building. But regardless of whether you are a pillar of the community or a soldier in a syndicate, once you know your role, you have to actually execute.
The theoretical contract must manifest into tangible survival.
Which hurls us out of the theoretical realm of the Phalgunis and right onto the factory floor. The manifestation pipeline.
Hasta, Chitra, and Swati.
The architect, the builder, and the merchant. If you want to sustain your social role, you have to manipulate the material plane. Let's start with Hasta, the 13th nakshatra.
The energy of cleverness, craftiness, and worldly immersion.
And Hasta's planetary lord is the moon, with a 10-year dasha cycle. But it sits entirely within Virgo,
which is ruled by Mercury. So this Moon-Mercury interplay is the engine of human ingenuity.
The nakshatra is symbolized by a hand or a fist, representing the grasping of tools and concepts, but its secondary symbol is profoundly revealing.
The potter's wheel.
That symbol is brilliant because it introduces the friction of time.
How so?
Well, a potter's wheel isn't just about clay, it's about the constant spinning passage of time required to fashion raw earth into something usable.
Oh, that's a great point.
If we update the analogy, Hasta is like a 3D printer.
I like that.
The moon provides the software file, the fluid, imaginative vision of what the object should look like, but Mercury is the physical nozzle, It calculates the exact X and Y coordinates, laying down the material layer by layer in real time.
That is a highly accurate modernization of the mechanics. Hasta is the emotional desire to create, ruthlessly guided by intellectual precision.
It's why this energy is heavily associated with wit and sharp, sometimes sarcastic communication.
And we see that perfectly in the chart of Swami Vivekananda.
Yes, he had his moon in Hasta.
People tend to think of saints as these detached, ethereal beings floating above the material world, but Vivekananda used the sharp, intellectual Mercury engine of Hasta to absolutely command audiences in the West.
He didn't just preach devotion. He utilized wit, humor, and brilliant logistical organization to build a tangible spiritual infrastructure.
He used the tools of the material world to elevate it. He was a spiritual craftsman.
But Hasta only draws the blueprints and organizes the raw clay. For the pot to become permanent, it must be subjected to the extreme heat of the kiln.
Which brings us to Chitra, the 14th Nakshatra, the builder.
Where Hasta is clever, Chitra is sheer force.
Because Chitra is ruled by Mars, and it initiates a 7-year dasha, Mars provides the raw kinetic energy required to actually forge reality.
It is the striking of the anvil.
Yes, it is the nakshatra of the architect who demands that the building not only stands, but that it glitters. Chitra creates works of undeniable physical beauty.
But there is a massive esoteric trap hidden inside Chitra. Right, because it is so violently effective at manifesting beautiful physical objects, it is deeply entangled with the concept of Maya, illusion.
When you spend all your time building the external matrix, you eventually become convinced that the matrix is the only thing that exists.
The architect becomes trapped inside their own building. So how does a Chitra-heavy intellect pierce the very illusion it is biologically driven to create?
The ancient texts prescribe a highly specific mythological remedy for this exact psychological trap. To pierce the material mirage of Chitra, one must meditate upon feminine deities who ride a tiger, such as the goddess Durga.
I want to dig into the physics of that symbol. Why a tiger?
A tiger in Vedic iconography represents the raw, untamed, predatory desires of the material world, the very desires that Chitra uses to build its empires.
Okay, that tracks.
The tiger is beautiful, powerful, and will absolutely devour you if you lose focus. By visualizing a divine feminine force, which represents higher intuitive wisdom, effortlessly riding and commanding that dangerous predator, you are aligning your internal architecture.
You're training yourself to recognize the danger of material desire without being consumed by it.
Exactly. You learn to ride the tiger of commerce and creation rather than being eaten by the illusion of permanence.
So you've mastered the illusion. You've used Hasta's 3D printer to design the product. You've used Chitra's Martian forge to build it. And now you have a warehouse full of magnificent tangible goods.
What is the logical next step in the evolution of the ego?
You have to sell it. Enter Swati, the 15th Nakshatra, the merchant.
Swati shifts the energy entirely. We leave the intense, focused forge of Virgo and enter the airy, social realm of Libra.
And the ruling planet here is Rahu, the north node, with an 18-year dasha cycle.
Right. Swati relates to the world strictly through trade, networking, and the exchange of value.
Swati is governed by Vayu, the wind god. It is restless, highly adaptable, and incredibly open-minded.
It doesn't have the stubbornness of Chitra because a good merchant cannot afford to be stubborn. They must adapt to the market.
And we see the exact anatomy of a master merchant when we examine Swati's padas.
The sequence here is a masterclass in business development.
The first pada falls in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. This quarter is purely expansive. It is inquisitive, highly communicative, and prone to travel.
It's the salesman hitting the road, exploring foreign markets, gathering Jupiterian intelligence on what different cultures value.
It's pure vision.
But vision doesn't close contracts. You can't just be an enthusiastic traveler if you want to build a trade empire.
Which is why the celestial mechanics push the energy into the second pada, falling in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn.
The boundless expansion of Jupiter is suddenly subjected to the brutal, structuring gravity of Saturn.
The spreadsheets come out.
Precisely. This is the most grounded, realistic manifestation of Swati. It is about material organization, calculating profit margins, and actualizing the Jupiterian vision through sheer Saturnian discipline.
The merchant stops traveling and builds the central headquarters.
Yes.
So let's pause and look at the trajectory of the human soul on this highway.
It's been quite a ride.
You asserted your identity at 21 with Magha. You found your partner with the Phalgunis. You accepted your societal role. You utilize the Hasta Chitra Swati pipeline to design, manufacture, and sell your legacy.
You've won the material game. You have the wealth, the status, the security.
And here we reach the most dangerous psychological pivot in the entire zodiacal wheel.
The inevitable question, are you fulfilled?
The ancient mechanics dictate that the answer is invariably no.
Because the human soul is not designed to be permanently satisfied by the material plane. Once the external conquests are complete, a terrifying vacuum opens up internally.
An agonizing longing for something beyond the physical arises. The midlife crisis.
The soul realizes that the palanquin of Magha and the warehouses of Swati are ultimately just dust.
Which hurls us violently into the 16th Nakshatra, Vishakha.
Vishakha is the domain of pure, terrifying catharsis.
The text treats Vishakha with a level of caution that borders on fear. It describes it as a thunderstorm. It carries an overwhelmingly intense, bifurcated energy.
And its planetary lord is Jupiter with a 16-year dasha cycle. But it spans the late degrees of Libra and the early degrees of Scorpio.
So you have the expansive nature of Jupiter trying to mediate between the Venusian desire for harmony and the Martian drive for occult, hidden power.
Its deities are Indra, the king of the gods, and Agni, the god of fire. It is a cosmic pressure cooker.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If a person allows this thunderstorm to break them down, if they surrender their meticulously built Swati ego to the fire of Vishakha, it leads to profound spiritual transformation.
But if they resist, if they try to harness that intense occult Scorpio energy to maintain their dominance over the material world,
the result is catastrophic destruction. When the energy of transformation is inverted and used for egoic control, it annihilates everything in its path.
And the source material gave us the most chilling possible example of Vishakha inverted. They provided the astrological chart of Ted Bundy.
It is a dark but mechanically flawless demonstration of the Nakshatra's shadow side.
Let's pull the planetary mechanics apart here because it is deeply unsettling how accurately the architecture maps to his pathology.
Bundy had his ascendant lord, Mercury the planet, dictating his intellect, his nervous system, his core interface with reality, placed in Vishakha.
But the critical factor is the exact degree. Vishakha bridges Libra and Scorpio. Bundy's Mercury was heavily entrenched in the Scorpio segment of Vishakha.
So his intellect was entirely saturated by Martian, scorpionic energy. Secretive, deeply psychological, obsessed with power dynamics and hidden control.
Furthermore, this Mercury was positioned in his third house. In Vedic astrology, the third house governs not only courage and short journeys, but the specific mechanics of communication, imitation, and mimicry.
So you have the intellect Mercury operating through the lens of imitation in the third house, fueled by the destructive occult power of Scorpio, all wrapped in the overarching energy of Vishakha.
And remember, the Libra side of Vishakha gives it a potent Venusian charm.
Bundy literally weaponized this astrological architecture. He used the superficial Venusian elegance of Vishakha to project an aura of harmlessness.
He utilized the third house mimicry to pretend to be injured wearing a fake cast, asking for help with a briefcase to bypass the psychological defenses of his victims.
And the moment the trap was sprung, he unleashed the pure, unmitigated, destructive force of the Scorpio side of Vishakha.
Instead of allowing the midlife spiritual crisis to burn away his own ego, he used that fiery, transformative energy to literally destroy the lives of others.
It is the ultimate perversion of the Nakshatra's power. It forces you to sit back and realize how neutral the stars actually are.
Vishakha offers you the fire of the gods. You can use it to burn away your illusions and achieve enlightenment, or you can use it to burn down the village.
The universe doesn't stop you either way. But let's assume you navigate the storm. Let's assume you let the fire of Vishakha burn away your attachment to the material world without destroying your soul. Where does that leave you?
It delivers you into the quiet, profound depths of Anuradha, the 17th Nakshatra.
The calm after the storm. The longing that nearly tore you apart in Vishakha is finally satiated here.
But not through accumulation. Through wisdom.
And Anuradha's planetary lord is Saturn, with a massive 19-year dasha cycle.
Right. Anuradha sits entirely within Scorpio, but that Saturn influence brings a cold, harsh discipline to the turbulent, emotional waters of Scorpio.
It demands that you strip away all remaining illusions and study the hidden mechanics of the universe.
You've survived the Chitra matrix. You no longer just see the beautiful buildings, you see the energetic scaffolding holding them up.
Anuradha's deity is Mitra, the god of friendship, alliances, and divine cosmic order. The brutal, conquering drive of the earlier nakshatras is replaced by a desire to align with the fundamental truths of nature.
And once a human being actually achieves that level of profound structural understanding, the surrounding society begins to interact with them differently.
They are no longer the aggressive warrior of Magha, and they are no longer the hustling merchant of Swati.
The community recognizes the gravity of their survival.
Which ushers us into the climax of the material world, the final destination of this second cycle. We have arrived at Jyestha, the 18th nakshatra.
Jyestha translates literally to the eldest, the senior-most, or the chief.
This is the respected, fiercely responsible elder figure of the community. You have survived the entire 10-lane highway. You are parked in the executive space.
And naturally, with that survival comes an immense, almost suffocating sense of pride and superiority.
The visual iconography of Jyestha perfectly captures this. It is represented by an earring, a traditional symbol of wealth, authority, and the right to be listened to, or the top of an umbrella.
Signifying the one who provides protection and sits at the absolute pinnacle of the hierarchy.
Astronomically, it is tethered to Antares, a massive, brilliant red supergent sitting right in the heart of the Scorpion.
And the planetary mechanics here are wildly complex. The Dasha period is ruled by Mercury, running for 17 years.
Mercury, the planet of the nervous system and the intellect, but it sits entirely within the Mars-ruled domain of Scorpio.
Its presiding deity is Indra, the king of the gods, but not the young, conquering Indra we saw earlier.
This is the older, paranoid Indra, who is terrified of losing his throne.
When you force the intellectual, categorizing energy of Mercury to operate in the militant, defensive environment of Mars, you generate a highly specific psychological profile.
Mercury constantly seeks to organize and control the scattered, fluctuating nature of the mind, which, astrologically, is represented by the moon and the masses.
Mercury demands absolute order.
And Mars provides the militant, uncompromising force to impose that order.
So when you combine an intellect that demands absolute societal order with the military force required to enact it, what is the resulting human behavior?
You get a policing mentality.
Exactly. The texts explicitly state that Jyestha natives often view themselves as the ultimate police of the world.
They are the elder who monitors everyone else's morality. They demand deference.
But this creates the million-dollar question for Jyestha. Is this genuine, spiritually grounded leadership? Or is it merely a performance to mask their fear of irrelevance?
The seers were unflinching in their critique of this stage of life. Jyestha is desperately obsessed with image maintenance.
More than almost anything else, the Jyestha energy wants to project the appearance of the respected, infallible elder.
They will stubbornly adhere to prevailing societal standards, even if those standards are intellectually bankrupt, simply to maintain their position of authority.
It's the tragedy of the aging politician. They care more about the optics of power than the execution of wisdom.
Which leads to one of the most culturally fascinating traits mentioned in the source material. The text highlights a very specific behavioral flaw of Jyestha.
An absolute mastery of unnecessary, exaggerated moaning and groaning.
The theatrical drama of the elder burdened by the weight of the world.
Right. My joints ache. The youth are destroying the village. Nobody respects the old ways anymore.
It's this stylized, performative complaining. But the source material draws a mind-bending cultural parallel here.
It states that the continent of Africa is traditionally considered to be under the esoteric influence of Jyestha energy.
And from the profound suffering, the hardship, and the deep, expressive vocal traditions of that continent,
we receive the musical architecture of the blues.
It is a stunning synthesis of astrology and cultural history. The blues is the literal sonic manifestation of Jyestha.
It is the vocalization of worldly woes, the physical aches, the betrayal, and the heavy burden of earthly existence, elevated into a highly stylized, performative art form.
It is the moaning and groaning of the elder transmuted into genius. I love that. To see an entire musical genre mapped perfectly to the energetic signature of a red supergent star.
And you can see how this heavy authoritative energy fractures when you look at the patis of Jyestha.
The patis dictate how the elder wields their authority. The first patis falls in Sagittarius, bringing Jupiter's influence.
This creates a highly chivalrous, generous elder. They want to be the benevolent godfather protecting the family.
But Jupiter's boundlessness makes them financially erratic, right? They might give away the entire family fortune on a whim because their optimism overrides their caution.
They lack structural discipline, but that discipline returns with a vengeance in the second pada.
Because the second pada falls in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. The jovial godfather vanishes.
Replaced by the ruthless CEO, Saturn strips away all warmth.
This quarter is described as rigid, unyielding, and incredibly stingy.
It produces highly mature, terrifyingly authoritative figures who speak with a commanding voice from a very young age.
But because Saturn delays gratification, these individuals usually only achieve their ultimate goals late in life, and only after enduring severe hardship and penance.
It is the most brutal road to becoming the chief. And as we hit the final degrees of Jyestha, we reach the end of the road.
We hit the boundary line of the second cycle.
We have mapped the entire architecture of the material ego.
We watch the soul assert its royal identity in Magha, seek union in the Phalgunis, build its empires with Hasta and Chitra,
Suffer the midlife terror of Vishakha, and finally grasp the paranoid crown of Jyestha.
We are at the absolute peak of earthly involvement. Think about where you are in this cycle. Are you in the identity-building phase of Magha, the hustle of Swati? Or are you feeling the deep, cathartic rumblings of Vishakha?
It is a perfect, unforgiving mirror of the human condition. The stars force us to build, to procreate, to suffer the consequences of our actions, and eventually to seek a wisdom that transcends the physical plane.
But as we close out this massive second act of the soul's journey, we have to look at where Jyestha leaves us.
You are sitting at the absolute pinnacle of society. You are the elder, you demand respect.
But if you spent the last 20 years just polishing your image, just enforcing rules to mask your own spiritual emptiness, what happens when the universe decides it's time to test the structural integrity of that image?
That is the terrifying precipice of Jyestha. The material world has given you everything it possibly can. There is no higher to climb.
In the esoteric mechanics of the universe, what has reached its absolute zenith
Must be torn down.
the palanquin must be shattered. And that is exactly the cliff we are driving off next time.
We cross the final threshold into the last cycle of 9 nakshatras.
And we begin with Mula, the galactic center. The nakshatra that exists solely to uproot and crush every single thing we have built in this entire cycle, forcing us to realize how small our material empires actually are.
Get your affairs in order.
We'll see you in the deep dive.